Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. Today we are facing e4. I'm going to play c5, the Sicilian defense. Our opponent responds with a Smith-Mora gambit. Okay, what I'm going to do here is play g6. Hopefully, transposing it into the hyper-accelerated pterodactyl. If they take my pawn, I go queen a5 check, and after either c3 or bishop d2 or knight c3 or queen d2, whatever they block with, we then take that pawn on c5. So they go c3 here. Now I'm going to play bishop to g7. And presumably they play knight f3, and if they do, we transpose into a line that I'm very familiar with, where we take here. Although they're a Smith-Mora player, they're not going to take back. They do take back, really? I thought they'd let me take here. Okay, well now we go d5, and this is now theory. We've transposed into something where they play e5. We now pin the knight to the queen with bishop g4, and we have no intention really of keeping this light square bishop on the board. We want to play e6, completely lock it out of our pawn structure, and yeah, we are gonna get rid of that expeditiously quickly. Beginning though, of course, with queen b6, because they've provoked me to play it, and I wanted to play it anyway. Vacating the defense of b2 with the dark square bishop this early to a place where I don't feel like it has any long-term prospects along this diagonal. Maybe eventually they try and sneak in here, but okay, they give a check. I'll block with my knight, obviously. They take. Okay. I kind of want to take with pawn, because why would I not take with pawn, open up my b file, potentially looking to play c5. I mean, this pawn structure is a pretty standard pawn structure, like a Caro-Kann or a French defense pawn structure, sorry. The Caro-Kann, disgusting opening, although my pawn is on c6, so this is dangerously close to a Caro-Kann. They play queen b3, and here the queen's vacated the defense of the knight, so if we take, they now have to take back with the pawn, which I really like the look of, and if they trade queens with me, then we recapture with the a-pawn, get the open a-file for the rook, and yeah, this is completely reasonable to play, I think. So we're now in an endgame where we have one massive pawn island with a very healthy pawn structure, and they have all sorts of weak pawns. Like, for instance, this backwards pawn on d4. They have 3 pawn islands, by the way, the one in blue, the one in red, and the one in yellow here. But most importantly, of course, they have these doubled pawns here on the f-file. Now, I'm fairly certain that the best thing to do here is going to be to try and outpost my knight on f5. But if I go for it straight away, genuinely I think their best move will be to trade off their bishop for my knight, because in the endgame, I think the knight is going to apply much more pleasant pressure to the pawns. It's got that global mobility to see the whole board, rather than the bishop, which can only see half of the board. So I genuinely think a good idea might be to start with h6, just provoke this bishop, and if they step back here, then I'm fairly sure they are in the mentality of, if knight e7, they want to take here. And so I might just play g5, bishop to g3, and then knight to e7. Because we've already got into an endgame as well, this is a super useful time, because it's quite simple at this point, to point out this unbelievably important concept in chess, and it's the concept of an outpost. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. The point of an outpost is it's a square that you can put a piece, I think almost always defended by at least one pawn, where none of the enemy pawns are able to remove it from that square, either because they've been pushed past the point where they can ever attack that square. Obviously pawns cannot move backwards, or there is simply no pawn in the g file, as we see here. Also, we have entirely shut down this knight's potential maneuverability towards the center, or even the edge of the board. So I mean, I guess knight to e2 at some point, and maybe trying to put it on f4, but again, we probably are going to play g5. So opponent goes back to e3. Makes complete sense. I'm going to play knight g7. Obviously, we're not going to f6 with the knight. Makes no sense to develop via h6. This is the whole point of removing this bishop. So they bring the rook to the g file. Okay, fine. They're putting pressure on a pawn. Again, fine. I'm putting my knight here. Super optimized knight. It is applying pressure to this very weak pawn, which has been fixed behind the other pawn in the pawn island adjacent to it, which gives it the name of the backwards pawn. Now, of course, we don't want to take this bishop here, because again, we just fought to have our knight prevalently positioned here. This is a very weak square, so I could, for instance, play knight h4 and go after that, threatening a fork, but it's very easy to defend, I think. What we want to do instead is not castle. We don't want a castle here, because this is an endgame. Our king is a very useful piece in the endgame. And because of that, I'm going to play king to d7. We are going to take one step to getting our king more close to the center, also connecting our rooks, allowing this rook to swing over, and I think we are going to lift a rook, put pressure on the pawn from a4. Yeah, you see, they want to trade off my knight now. Maybe I should have gone rook a4 first. No, I didn't even consider knight g3 as a move. That's so annoying. Although I do have this, but then they just lift it up. Oh, that's really annoying. Okay, I think what I should have done was play something like rook a4 first. Although maybe they just go b3 and bishop here. But the thing is, this pawn might collapse. Okay, now they've threatened to take our knight. I think my knight's better than theirs. I think my pawn structure currently, again, absolutely curtails their knight's potential moves. And so I'm genuinely just going to drop back with my knight. I do not want to trade them off, because first of all, I would reconcile their pawn structure. Secondly, if I let them take mine, then I would destroy my beautiful, one beautiful line of connected pawns. And I think we're going to be able to pursue ideas of lifting a rook, putting this rook on the a file, and eventually improving this bishop. Maybe that ends up happening via h6, but I think most likely it'll end up happening via some kind of, after the rook's moved across, bishop f8 and bringing it down this diagonal. Now they move the knight back, which is very useful to note. Okay, we're going to go... Where are we going to go? We're just going to go here. I don't want to go to a4 because I think probably b3, rook here, bishop comes here. Like, I'm going to end up getting attacked a bunch. The knight now bounces in here. Are they planning some sacrifice? Because my pawn structure is just so strong. I don't really see where your knight's actually trying to go here. Maybe they're hoping I go g5 so they can go in here and like to f6, but we are just going to slide across and stack the rooks on the only semi-open file we have. Oh, they can play that anyway because of this. That's interesting, but I don't care. I'm going to play bishop here. You go check, and I will trade that off gladly and then put my knight back on that beautiful f5 square. I could also play knight f5 now, because you take, I take backwards. Knight f5 is tempting, but then you go knight g3. And what, do I come back? Because then that's looking like a draw by repetition, and I don't like it. Okay, we're literally playing bishop h8 here. This looks dumb. But again, pieces are flexible. Pieces can move about. We are taking that, and we are putting our knight here. I think this was probably the right idea. You now have tripled isolated pawns here, an isolated pawn here, 4 pawn islands, by the way, and another isolated pawn on h2. Our pawns are so healthy. This is great. Now I'm going to go rook a4. Pressure on d4, obviously. They're going to play rook d1, and then I'm probably going to go rook c4 to try and drop in and slide in and start applying pressure across here. Okay, they don't want to defend their pawn. What is going on? I mean, hello? Why? I'm not going to complain. I'm going to absolutely take that pawn. Although, do they have b3? No, because I just take. Like, I don't understand. They take, we take back, and now this is a rook and pawn endgame. I could not show you a better example of why to look after your pawn structure. Opponent proposes a take back, we'll give them a take back, because I do not care if they've just played a bad move. Like, there's no way you can redeem this position. Look after your pawns, guys. Now we're going to just stack like this. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The only weak point really is f7, which is a fixed backwards pawn, but there's just no way you can access that with the rooks, because all the other pawns are just, are just shutting down files. There are no open files on the board, no entirely open files. There are some semi-open files. For instance, files that only have one color pawn on, like the A and the C file. They move the pawn across here, trying to break through and infiltrate like this, I guess. I'm kind of tempted to just play king c7. a5, and I just push past. a6. King b8. Check. I just go under. That would be really funny. Oh, you know what, guys? Just because it's really funny, we're going to do it. I don't think this is the best idea. I think probably going after any manner of these terrible pawns is a great idea. But I don't want to give this rook any activity. I'm literally going to push past and just snake all my pawns. I want to play this just for the just for the fun of it. Now I can play this, and that probably also wins somehow. In fact, that probably just wins straight away. Rook here, takes. Wait, let's calculate. Rook h4, bh4, king e2, king b6, king d3, king a6, king d4, probably. King b5. And then I'm just going to play c5, walk up, take this pawn and promote my pawn on a4. Yeah, this is going to be very much all she wrote. And if you decide not to take my rook, then I'm going to grab your pawn. And yeah, this is just game over. They're going to try and run their king in. But our pawn holds this square, which is actually really important, I think. And we take, I mean, we don't need to calculate for that because it's going to transpose into the same thing. So now I'm going to go here, and I think it's just a bit better for me, actually. Yeah, king b6, and you cannot approach me. They're going to go here. Or they're not. They're going to try and come over and get the pawn, okay. But I'm going to go c5. And we are going to just hold all of these squares. There was no real need to go rook a4 there. But just because it's funny. If you go b3, do I go a3? Oh, that's good. They go, ooh. Now, do I turn down en passant and break the laws of chess? Honestly, guys, I'm seeing like an immortal ZUGZWANG here. ZUGZWANG is the German word for where you basically force your opponent. You create a situation in which every move your opponent has worsens their position. And I think if we play c4, I really like this. c4. Look, we control these two squares, which are the only squares the king can defend this pawn from. They could drop back and go round, actually. But the point is, we're going to play king b5. Yeah, look at this. This is so funny. So look, generally, if you're trying to create a ZUGZWANG in the endgame, you want to blockade and remove moves that your opponent can play. So they push this pawn. They basically have, like, once they push this, we can just take it. So I'm going to go up with my king. Now, either they move their king and give me this pawn for free. Look at my pawn structure, guys. Look at my pawn structure. They either move this, and then we could go here. Because this holds here and this holds here. Oh my days. Oh my days. This is just such a funny way to convert it. Look at their 5 pawns. You could look at their 5 pawns. This is just ridiculous. Now, instructively, I'm going to take this way. Because if we take this way, then we make this pawn very weak and the king can come in and get it. It doesn't matter. But there's no need to calculate it. We're now going to play a3. They are stripped of any moves. Their pawns cannot move. Their king cannot move to any of these 4 squares here. It will be left to go here, here, or here, and either or any combination of these moves, I can just take this pawn. Or if it goes here, for instance, we can just push a2. They should resign. They should definitely resign here. There is just nothing to do, like at all. We've completely blockaded all their pawns. They step back. Now we can take their pawn here, and yeah, this is just so funny. We're going to ZUGZWANG them all the way to the end of the game, unless they resign, which I would highly recommend they do, given that we have a 4-pawn advantage. Okay, so here's a line that might happen. King b1, king b3, king a1, d4, king b1, d3. Yeah, they just resign. They just resign. That was the most likely move, knocking over the king. Let's analyze that game. Okay, so here we are in the analysis, and that was a 94% accurate game with 4 inaccuracies. The inaccuracies generally being in the opening, which we take complete pride in. What a dominant position at the end there. Let's go through the game. So e4, c5, d4, the Smith-Morra, and okay, of course the inaccuracies came from the fact that we played g6, and then, okay, knight f3, takes. This is actually theory. This isn't an accuracy, but it is theory. Look, Master's database, d5 is the... Oh, one second, let me scroll so you can see it over my face cam. d5 is 90% of the time played in the Master's database, played by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. And, you know, there's a Alexander Morozevich Dingler endgame in here. Awesome stuff. But yeah, d5, e5, and bishop g4 is, again, the top Master move. Here, e6, and yeah, now we're out of the Master's database because what the hell is bishop g5? Queen b6 was an inaccuracy. Maybe I should have played knight g7. I should have taken this. Oh, and if takes, I take your queen. But honestly, I kind of prefer just playing queen b6. The check happens, knight c6, takes, and then a queen here. And now I can take this, ruin the pawns. They trade the queens, sending us into an endgame where we then hopefully, after h6, bishop back, knight ge7, put the knight on the beautiful square. Knight goes back. Was king d7 the best move? Or we like c5. I didn't really consider c5 at any point. Probably I should have. It looks like a very instructive move. It does like knight h4, but when you give it time to think, it really likes king d7 as well, I think. No way it likes knight h4. Anyway, we're going to go through this relatively quickly. King d7, and then dropping the knight back, actually, we'll look once more. It likes knight e7 still, but seeing that we shouldn't trade that knight, obviously, our pieces are flexible, the pawns are far less flexible, and so we just improve our pieces. That was a blunder because we just go back with the bishop, takes, and put the knight back on the beautiful square. bring the rook up, take the pawn, and yeah, this was a very simple conversion. Awesome stuff. Was rook here good? It was the best move in that position. Takes, and then yeah, this ZUGZWANG was just really nice. They pushed, and instead of taking and giving them access to our pawn, we just close off the squares they can go to. Here, close it off again. Look at that. Bring the king up. Here, take like this. It prefers taking the other way, or I don't know. Okay, no, the answer's just going to think for ages on this. We take, and then yeah, it's just mate in 9 as we play a3, push, and the game may have continued. King b1, king here. I would have just started pushing this pawn, but obviously they resigned in this position. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that game. I definitely enjoyed playing it. Hopefully that taught you the power of keeping a healthy pawn structure, and really how to abuse your opponent's weak pawn structure and actually make the most of the fact. You know, a lot of beginners will say, oh, I'll take this because it doubles their pawns. Good, but you need to be able to understand how to then exploit those double pawns, for instance. Which segues me very nicely into the fact that I'm going to be offering personal chess coaching to my subscribers. I'm going to be releasing a Google form on the channel, probably via a community post, so there's going to be basically some information to fill out. Let me know in the comments or via this form if it is up by the time you see this. If you're interested in personal chess coaching, like, comment, subscribe, check out the channel memberships, all that stuff really helps the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.